Obscure records state that the Marines Radiant were the 6th chapter created during the 21st founding, at first quite unremarkable and highly codex compliant as suited their Ultramarines' genetic heritage. Initially fleet-based, they gained great acclaim in 996 M35 after their purge of the orcs of War Blitzrocker in the Aquarius system, to which they were granted Aquarius Prime as their new homeworld, where they established their fortress ministry, the Radiant Tower. Their secret was a genetic psychic ability to subtly mimic and adapt to the physical strengths of a more powerful opponent. It is believed by modern Imperial scholars that this ability was expected to eventually render the Marines Radiant all but invincible to any of the Imperium's foes. The ability was put to good use over the next 6 millennia, as the chapter only grew stronger and more effective after each battle and each campaign. Those who paid close attention to the activities of the Adeptus Astartes feared of their potential vulnerability to the corruption of chaos, but 4 archenemy engagements put this fear to rest. Their purging of a Tzeentchian cult on Praxis 3 in M36, led by a traitor Astartes sorcerer, only led to a marked resistance to sorcery. Their skirmish with the Cornate Brass Host warband in M38 only increased the physical strength and endurance of the Marines involved. Their encounter with a Nurgle-corrupted troop carrier in the Corvian Gulf, also in M38, produced no physical changes, as the Radiant's biology rejected any mimicry of the seemingly wasting, rotten bodies of their enemies, no matter their higher resilience. Their destruction of the Slaneshi Beautiful Sons warband in 006 M41 culminated with the Chaos Lord Seltar slaying the Radiant's chapter master, Dorium Grail, opening a gateway to the realm of Slanesh and sending forth a horde of demons as a last resort to wipe out the loyalists that dared destroy his warband. Only after Seltar was slain by First Captain Marcus de Salle and Chief Librarian Vidak Orr somehow sealed the gate was the chaos threat defeated utterly and all doubt of the chapter's purity assuaged. At this period of the chapter's history, the colors changed from black and red with company trim to more jubilant hues of marbled white and purple, though still keeping red accents for line marines, replaced with white for the first company and a small markings for company veterans. The Marines Radiant now truly lived up to their name in both appearance and character, becoming more outgoing and charismatic in personality and introducing a tradition of sparring duels between captains. Upon the initiation of a first captain, the now chapter master de Salle would personally spar with them, jubilant and satisfied with his chapter's resurgence amidst the worsening repute of the founding they came from. Their engagement with the Tau on Envar in 333 M41 was noted by the Scorpius 115th Infantry Regiment they fought alongside as the finest fighting they had ever seen, though few officers had anything positive to say about the attitude of the chapter after the battle, claiming the Marines deemed their baseline allies to be so far beneath them as to be undeserving of glory or credit. It also saw the debut of a new set of Codex Divergent chapter colors born upon the power armor of the 6th Company, a bright turquoise blue and purple with yellow accents, which the 115th initially assumed to be a different chapter altogether. A decade later, these became the standard colors of the chapter, with company trim ditched altogether and innumerable minor color variations between each squad and unit. After Envar, communication between the wider Imperium and the Marines Radiant became infrequent, which the chapter claimed was the result of constant responses to requests for aid and intermittent warp storms around the Aquarius system. However, their growing isolation was as much a product of their changing chapter culture as it was of the warp storms and unceasing campaigning. By circa 336 M41, the chapter refused to fight alongside the Astra Militarum altogether, along with any other baseline human fighters, and clashed with the Guard and Sisters of Battle on numerous occasions. This only further isolated them from increasingly resentful allies, even from other Astartes chapters, and inculcated a towering superiority complex in the chapter. The traditional sparring matches changed at the same pace, with first helmets being omitted, then weapons, then even power armor was forbidden in what had become inter-company bare-knuckle boxing matches, demonstrating the biological might of the Astartes to line marines and initiates alike. By 660 M41, Chief Librarian Vidag Orr began to spend more and more time absconded within the librarium of the Radiant Tower, occasionally accompanied by Chapter Master de Salle. That same year, Desal mustered his entire chapter on the cardinal world of Torres Rise to announce his newfound faith in the imperial cult, proclaiming his chapter to have converted with him en masse and were forever in debt to the ecclesiarchy. Their offer of aid was gladly accepted by many cardinal and shrine worlds the chapter would come to defend, but every sororitas order that fought alongside the seemingly repentant chapter only did so reluctantly and refused to communicate with them. This was both as a grudge for the Marines' anti-baseline prejudice in prior decades and an overwhelming feeling of dread overcoming the pious battle sisters upon close proximity to them, which they attributed to their coming from the now infamous cursed 21st founding. On 663 M41, they were observed by the Annihilators chapter as having loosened their command and rank structure to the point where only their captains, librarians and chapter masters could be consistently recognized as such. On 664 M41, the chapter withheld their gene seed tithe indefinitely, on the grounds of heavy losses in recent campaigns to which the Magus biologists would eventually demand their censor. On 665 M41, Chief Librarian Vidag spent 6 months in the Radiant Tower's librarium, emerging half-crazed, covered in bizarre runes, and claiming he knew how to project an avatar of the God Emperor himself to real space. At least, it was assumed by the chapter serfs and scribes that he meant the Emperor, for Vidag insisted on the title Our Lord. As soon as Desal heard of this, he ordered the entire chapter to muster for home. However, 4 companies, the 2nd, 5th, 7th, and 9th, were embroiled in various conflicts across the galaxy, leaving 6 companies to muster on Aquarius Prime, the majority of them assembled within the Radiant Tower, which began to become hotter for no apparent reason, condensation dripping from the walls. 2nd Company Captain Adrian Voss, most loyal of Desal's captains, represented his company in their stead and attempted to voice his concerns about the deteriorating state of the Fortress Ministry, but was increasingly sidelined by his suddenly reclusive chapter master. Upon the completion of the muster, 1st Company Captain Vesk and 4th Company Captain Tormund commenced an honor duel fought in the same manner as it had been for the past decade. A bout of wrestling in the middle of the throne room, the two stripped down to their bare skin and tattooed with the same runes worn upon Vidag's armor. However, as Captain Vesk pinned Tormund down and won, he tore one of the 4th Captain's ears off with his teeth and let the blood run down his skin, having no interest in wiping it off as his power armor was put back on. Captain Tormund's reaction was similar, not cleansing the blood seeping from his wound and refusing medical aid, stating that an Astartes should not merely tolerate pain but come to enjoy it. For almost a week, violent incidents between chapter serfs and planetary residents steadily spiked, the epicenter being the Radiant Tower, now dubbed the Tower of Pain. On the eve of the new year, Marcus Desal, accompanied by Vidag Orr, 2nd Captain Voss, and the chapter's honor guard, gave an address to the assembled chapter in the fortress's Great Hall, stating that Vidag was to initiate a grand summoning of the avatar of Our Lord to finally smite the chapter's foes for good. Captain Voss, putting aside his concerns for a moment, invoked a blessing to the God Emperor, to which the honor guard seized him and pinned him to the floor, stripping much of the 2nd Captain's armor. Desal then finally clarified that the Emperor was no longer the Lord of the Marines Radiant, as Vidag revealed a ritualistic dagger with a symbol etched to his blade that Voss recognized far too late. On planetary midnight, 666 M41, Voss's sacrifice on the intricately carved hall floor brought forth a warp-born monstrosity, exploding from his mutilated body and finally sealing the fate of a once noble chapter. Their biological quirk had ultimately doomed them to corruption from the one force that could manipulate its ability to adapt and improve their way to perfection, Slanesh. In 6 hours, Aquarius became corrupted and overcome by tides of demonettes, cultists, and corrupted Astartes, despite the noble yet futile last stands of a few loyalist PDF, and was dragged into the warp, reappearing as a demon world within the storm of the Emperor's wrath. When the wider Imperium caught wind of the fall of the Marines Radiant, they were officially declared excommunicate traitores by the High Lords and Ecclesiarchy, and the Orders Malleus and Hereticus launched independent, often conflicting, investigation of any individuals, chapters, regiments or sororitas orders who had encountered the now traitor chapter in an attempt to purge as much of the Imperium from the Radiant's taint as possible. Meanwhile, Aquarius was renamed by its freshly corrupted masters as Alcor, with Desal now serving as its Chaos Lord and Vidic as its Arch-Sorcerer, ruling from the Tower of Pain and indulging in the mutual torture that had totally consumed their brothers, now striding into battle, rasping and giggling in delirium. Some helmless faces reveal torn, mutilated skin rippling in ecstatic agony, holes in cheeks eagerly licked and torn by long, worm-like tongues. The few dreadnoughts that did not become hellbrutes requested their sarcophagi to be exposed, allowing the stinging elements of the outside to rack them with exquisite torment. Former Captain Voss had become Varax, a demon prince of Slanesh bound to the will of his patron god and summoned into battle by the warband sorcerers when needed. He has been rendered insane with grief, guilt, and conflicting feelings of pleasure only intensified by his shame, making him a dangerous and unpredictable opponent. The 4 companies that inadvertently escaped their chapter's final corruption, horrified by the news, remained loyal to their god emperor, but were branded heretics by association, hunted down by the Inquisition, sororitas, and any other imperial force that learned of the sins of their chapter. Now returned to their old red and black colors, led by former 7th Company Captain Avant Tarantus and living the lives of renegades, these loyalist remnants renamed themselves the Vengeful Blades, struggling to survive as a cohesive force and swearing an oath to bring death upon their former chapter master and all of his dark kin.